Dr. Mishra, and congratulations, Archana.
Oh, thank you.
So Archana just got the curriculum passed through for you. What is the official title for it?
It's still the art of medicine.
Right. So yeah, we'll work with that.
Don't change that.
Don't, yeah. You add a little creativity to that. You're great. So, okay. So we're just, let me just go around real quick and just give us your name and like one sentence about you. We have some new folks on here today. And we have some of our regular members here as well. So we all know Dr. David Yates, broadcasting from the Heights. We'll go to my right, Tony.
Yes, Anthony Pagliaroli. I'm from Hermitage, Pennsylvania.
Great.
And I have a consulting practice called Bright Lights Innovations, and Roger was my faculty member.
Yeah. Thank you, Tony. Ike.
Hey, my name is Ike Choi, Emory University, School of Nursing. Very nice to see you.
Good to see you, Cho. Ken Kamiga.
Yes, Ken Kamiga, Buffalo, New York. Roger and I are longtime colleagues. I own Grenny Corporation, and that's a training and development company, engineering and leadership development.
Ken and I did a whole bunch of work together at Mazda back in the 80s. Ken's in the last part of the book, and we've done some articles together. And and Ken builds extraordinary automobiles from the ground up. So
that's just a hobby, as an automotive engineer as well. That's just a little project on the side. So it's fun. Keeps me off the streets.
Ken, it's good to see you. Yeah. John Krause.
Likewise.
Yeah,
Keep you on the streets.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was going to say, it's a bit weird that you build cars to keep you off the streets.
Doesn't compute.
That's right.
You should see the cars he builds. Extraordinary. Yeah. Yeah, John.
My name is John. I'm a second-year medical student at the Jacobs School of Medicine, and I'm working with the school on involving AI in the curriculum.
Excellent. Oh, that must be Robert.
John.
Good. Dr. Gatewood, over to you.
I'm a semi-retired cardiologist.
Like that, right?
Groupie, and also known as Rogers Cato.
Cato. Long story behind that.
At your service.
Thank you, Cato. Michael, coming in from South Africa.
Yeah, I'm Michael. I'm from your future. Just a few hours in your future, but still your future. I'm a student in the Buffalo program currently, and I'm also a creativity trainer here and creativity coach.
And Michael, congratulations on getting the Firestein Creative Achievement Award. So yeah, glad to give it to you. Glad that you earned it. So
what an honor. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Dr. Mishra.
Hi, I'm Archana Mishra. I'm from Buffalo, a pulmonary critical care and sleep physician.
And Archana, I understand you had a lovely conversation with your new friend Priya Pinto recently, right?
I did.
New pal. So Aladad, let's go over to you at early in the morning in California, and you're going to be doing the show today. So go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. Aladad Gyasi. I'm trained as an orthopedic hand surgeon, and now I'm Chief Medical Officer for High Technologies, and I'm coming from my driveway to your kitchen table.
Are you the
thanks for letting me drive it there.
So this is the third part in a series where all that is talking about Qvio, which is an extraordinary AI device system that we're looking at for teaching medical education. So Aladad, I'm just going to take it right over to you and go ahead and pick it up, and you have the screen. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let me go. I'm just going to show a couple of slides this morning.
Okay.
Just to refresh everybody, bring everybody up to
thank you
to par here, and have to minimize a couple of things. So we're in slideshow mode. So we've talked about two of the interactive solutions that are that have integrated controlled AI within them. One is called the QVO, which is a video-based product, and that's what I'm going to talk about this morning. This is essentially making your videos come alive by making them interactive through the Ask Me button. And the second one, if we have time, I can show you, is the IVO, and this is a presentation mode where you have a virtual character that is lifelike enough, but not hyper-realistic. And it's animated talking to the viewer and presenting information on the presenter screen. Again, the whole crux of this is to create interactivity, okay, through a microphone button. So the focus is going to be on QVO. To make a QVO, the first thing you really need to do is identify the video, upload it, and that's as simple as uploading, and I'll show you how that works this morning. And then the next step would be to generate questions. So before we jump into that, let me just show you the video, and I'm going to upload it while we talk about questions real quick, okay? So can you guys see this screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Animated character. This is a video, actually.
Are you tired of struggling to get a clear view during surgeries?
And he's talking about surgical exposures. I made this for my other company, and he's just telling you how the new technology that has been developed is being used. But it's just a video. It's 2 minutes and 16 seconds long. So on the QVO platform, which you can see right here, can you see the screen here?
Yes.
We'll go ahead and just upload that video. So we'll have to go to the files here and just upload it and give it a name, and we'll call it Retract Ortho. And that'll upload while we're talking. It takes a few minutes for it to do that, and the AI is working on the background. I'm going to hop over back to my PowerPoint slides while that's happening and talk about question generation. I'm not going to go in full slideshow mode just because it gets me a little bit confused because I can't see you guys on the side.
Sounds
But
good.
I want to focus on this because this comes up all the time when we talk to educators about, well, what do I do about questions? Where do the questions come from? I want to kind of clarify that. And this slide here can give us a little bit more insight into how questions are being generated. And it also speaks to the path that we're taking for this question generation component of the QVO. So on one end, you can see it's manual, and on the other end, it's completely automated. So let's start with manual. What this means is that, you know, you import a file or individually add each question, right? So you find the questions, you source them, you can type them in or import them in. And that's kind of a cumbersome process, but sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes there's a question that I just want answered in there, and I can add it. The more common way that this question is sourced is actually through viewer feedback, which is this component AIM. That's a question that your audience asked that you didn't anticipate, wasn't in your AI database, but someone was creative enough to come up with that one question that you didn't get. And that's across the board for all the ways to add questions is this AIM system, which is an automated intelligence modification system, essentially crowdsourcing your audience to ask questions and answer them. This system, by the way, allows you not to answer if you choose not to. I mean, someone's asking a question that's just you don't feel like answering or is not within the realm of your course, you can just go ahead and mark it as noted and not add it. But that's the manual process. The second way of doing it, as you see, we're moving up the ladder here to more of a hybrid process for question generation, is to generate questions through a generative AI tool. And this, I think, one of the prior lessons in November, December, I believe it was Dr. Yates who had, or Gatewood, I forget, but there was a conversation on there showing you how to use a large language model for generating questions and answers. And this works fairly well. You put a prompt in saying, create questions and answer pairs or particular topic, or you give it a document, you know, and that document can't be It's got to have some parameters around it. It can't be too large because these language models they kind of like to eat. They're like us. If you give me too big of a bite, I start choking. So if you dump a lot of information into them, they just can't process it. They call that like the one word for that is the context window. And they have a good context window, but not large enough to be able to consume everything. But this is another way using a generative AI tool, and then also manual. And then this is you source some other questions through SEO, or you have, a database of questions you like to add. Again, that AIM crowdsourcing is still available. And this kind of a hybrid model works well. And I believe we actually had one of our educators at University of Buffalo do this using ChatGPT, and it was for anatomy course, very kind of nuanced answers and questions, because as you know, anatomy is a language, and that's how he entered his questions in there through sourcing it through a generative tool. As you move up this ladder, then you can actually generate questions and answers within the tool itself. So this is where, the generative AI is embedded within the tool. You feed it the content, whether it's a video or an animated IVO, and it reads the transcript, looks at questions and answers, and then gives you the questions and answers that relate to the transcript, and puts it in your dashboard there for you to edit and accept. All of these processes, regardless of what you're doing, it does need a final approval by the content owner, right? So just like you spell check a document before sending it out, right? We don't send it out unless we check the grammar or the tonality. And that speaks again to authority and agency over the content. But as educators, 80% of the content is out there and you're like, yeah, this makes sense, but oh, that part of it I got to improve. So all of this is going to require some sort of human level surveillance to get final approval because we're the owner of the conversation. Then as you move to a more automated format, this is where you can actually, and we're able to do this, it's just not publicly available. You can actually give it a whole bunch of data sets. So imagine you're a professor, you've been in education for 20, 30 years, you have a rich library of content, videos, quizzes, PDFs, publications, just your brain trust of your academic career. And if you want to add to that, textbooks, whatnot. In this process here, which right now we're doing as a professional service, the system uses technique called RAG. And we'll talk about RAG a little bit, but it uses this technique. And essentially what it's doing is directing that language model towards your brain trust of information, querying that, identifying the answer to the question, and then bring a return back to the author. So it's a referenced way of getting the answer that's automated, and it's contained within a data set that belongs to you. And then the final way, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, and the final way is a purely automated way where you've trained a language model and the language model is sitting on a bunch of data, just like you'd see with ChatGPT or other language models, and that's integrated within the system. And we're able to do that too. The issue is that most people don't have the time, money, and technical ability to train a language model, even though it's supposed to be easy. The other issue with that is that you continually have to update that, right? So as the data sets improve, you have to then retrain your language model to continue to keep up with that data set. So it's a continual feedback loop. Again, one of the issues, as you know, with language models is that they're kind of like humans. They don't have that control layer in response. They just give you an answer. Whether it's right or wrong, reference or not, fact check or not is a whole different issue. We are moving to this form as we're getting better and better at our technology, and as technology is improving. I mean, AI it's like just in the past 6 months, it's amazing how much improvements happen. We are going to have very soon this integrated RAG model. So RAG, This is what we're talking about as being part of the new format to integrate. And what that means is that there's a question that's formulated. There's a database of knowledge. The question goes to that database, finds what's in the database that relates to that question, that knowledge base, then brings it back into the content and integrates it and responds the way that you want it to respond. So whether that's text, through an animated human, through just voice, through a variety of different ways, including multiple languages, it gives you the response there. So this is really, and I'm not going to go to the next step, which is linking media and all that stuff, but I just wanted to talk about question generation and really emphasize the fact that, you know, a lot of people sitting there going, well, do I have to? The answer is not for long, because we're moving up this path toward automation where you give it your data set and that's all you do. You still would need to have this control layer on top, I think, or this crowdsourcing. This comes along with it. We didn't put it there, but this is another component. By the way, this crowdsourcing component, this can be turned on and off. So you can turn your students off if you want to all the questions that are not being asked. You won't get a notification. The system will still recognize a question was asked and unanswered, but you just won't be bothered by it. So this is where we're going with it. And I'm going to pause there for a second and see if anyone has any questions. Okay, so it looks like our video is uploaded. This is the QVO platform. That same video that I showed you is uploaded. And the AI has actually gone in there and indexed everything, right? It found a lot of important keywords. You know, when am I talking about surgery? When am I talking about the fluoroscopy? You know, when am I talking about the retractors? So it's done a lot of back-end work. And we're not even digging into this component of it just yet, but it's already done its work indexing, identifying the transcript, and also identifying the timeline and the scenes. But the part I wanted to show you is this Q&A part. So I can, like I said, add it manually, one question at a time. Not going to do that. I can import, and I generated some questions from before, and here they are. You know, I can just go ahead and import those. And it winds up looking at that Excel spreadsheet. And that's just been, by the way I developed that is just developing enough content that I had enough to put into a spreadsheet. So it's able to actually have those questions. So the reason that's important is as educators, we do a lot of work, but we do it one time and then repeat it another time. What does that mean? You spend 5 hours developing a lecture, another 3 hours proofreading that, then you go and you give your lecture, you do your Q&A, and then repeat that again, right? So we're not capturing those golden moments in time where we're dispensing our knowledge. It's just going into ether. And maybe it's going into the students' heads, or maybe it's not. But we're losing that opportunity of being able to capitalize on our knowledge base because it's not being captured in any really meaningful way. And I recommend start videotaping or audio recording some of your lectures. And the reason is that there's value in there, and there are tools that can help you generate a lot of important information, interactivity, questions and answers, and you can capitalize on them. So you can see I imported that questions. There's, let's see how many. There's a lot of questions in here already. Sorry, let me see if I put in. Yeah, there's over 80 questions. I just, you know, this is the search tool. I put A in, it kind of has a common letter. So it tells me there's at least 70 some questions in there. It's also imported, if you look, it's also imported some web links too. So it imported a lot of good intelligence. And soon it will also import images and videos that are linked from one lecture to the other. So that was, you know, showed you the manual, showed you the batch import. But here's the amazing part, generating from the transcript. So it's read the transcript and it's indexed it as I showed you. Now, and it's also identified the scenes and everything else. Now the AI is working in the background, taking that transcript, taking the video content and analyzing it and creating questions and answers. So you can see at the bottom here, it's generated 5 questions for me, and this relates to the context window, right? The context window is not very very wide for all of these tools yet. It's gonna get wider as more data compression happens within AI. But it's already identified those. It's listed them here for me. It's also identified scenes that relate to that. So it went to that segment and it found the
and
video.
frustrations. In this slide, you can see Dr. Gyasi drilling with a clear view of both the surgical and fluoroscopic.
So it identified that, I put it on my desktop, and I can accept, deny, and you can see it spelled my name wrong, right? Missing an H, right? I simply save that, and that's added to my question and answer database here. The other way, and this is again moving up that ladder toward automation, is to generate questions and answers from a prompt. So you can put in a document in here if it's too large, or some text. If it's too large, it's going to choke, right? But if you put the right document in there, it will generate questions and answers. You can also put a website in here. It can scrape a website. It does a pretty good job, and it generates questions and answers. And you can even form that prompt. So you can say, you know, make the answers empathic, right? And I don't have a document right now to throw in here, but the idea is that you put your document, text, whatever you want, hit that, and it generates questions for you. And it does the same thing that I showed you. It puts them in line here with your questions and answers, and you're done. The next step for us is to have really just the ability to say, drop your documents into this system, or point us to where all your documents that you want for this particular course are. And it goes and it will use that RAG or RAG technique to reference, identify, find the answer, bring the reference to it as well, and then present it to the user. So that's question generation. We did get a little bit into the automation part of the scene and videos as well. I'm going to pause there, see if anyone has any questions before I show you the multilingual component of this solution.
Robert, go ahead.
All right, I can't see
Yeah,
anything.
this is very intriguing. I have a couple of questions. One is students may ask a question, the same question, but just phrase it differently. Is there any way that the system, instead of listing each individual one, can group it into one and make it one?
Yes.
So the list isn't 80, but you know, maybe 30?
Well, yes. So what you're talking about is semantic similarities. I didn't talk about that this morning, but that's baked in there already, which means the question goes to the AI. The AI identifies that question, and then with a 90% confidence interval, it brings a reply.
Okay.
So, and if it's not within 90%, it falls back to the next best question. Okay. And it shows you, says, is this what you mean? And if it's below anything that is within its realm, it simply says, I don't know. So those 80 questions are actually, you can multiply them by probably a factor of 5 or 7, because there are 5 or 7 different ways of asking the same question. Okay. So the answer is yes, it's already baked in there. And let me show you another way of explaining that through multilingual. By the way, any other questions?
Well, yeah, I was wondering if also the list of questions, because this is something that you miss not being in a big conference room and hearing other students, is making the list so that it goes from the question that's asked the most to the question that's asked the least.
Yes, excellent point. So that is so we're at the beginning stage of that. Thanks for reminding me of that. So you can see my screen here. This is for patient education. Actually, it's for pediatric respiratory tract infections, right? Educating moms. But you can see here in the question list, I have this little pin button. When you hit the pin button, it puts it top of the list on the questions and answers. So when you say ask me, these questions that show up first are the pin questions. And right in this one, we actually put how do I get to your facility as a top question, because mom may not even know where to go.
Here's an interactive Google map to our Johns Hopkins Children's Center in Baltimore.
Sorry. The mom may not need to know where to go, but within that content is highlighted the question that really is important to the stakeholder of the content. And this is an interactive map, by the way. This is not, this is just like you would be on Google. Yeah, the only difference is that it's embedded. So it actually eliminates a lot of friction, because how many times have we been on the internet where like, okay, but that's not the website, that page looks like that page, and is this the on and on, right? I, as the content authority, want that straight up front, and I've done that. So the answer is yes. Right now, it's a little bit rudimentary in the sense that it's pinned. The I, when you hit the I, it actually hides the question. What does that mean? It means that if there's a question in there that's important to you, like I want to harm myself, right? It's embedded, but you don't want that in your common question list because you're the author and you don't want that, but you want that safety layer. So when you do ask the question, I want to harm myself, it's in there. It's just the user doesn't see it. So you can hide questions, pin them as well. What is going to happen, by the way, I didn't want to get into this part of it today, but AI is now going to the next step and becoming agentic. They're actually becoming agents, meaning that they not only can do a query and get a response like I showed you, but they can do multiple steps in a row. So what will happen, and this is on our roadmap, as the technology matures, and I suspect even by the end of the year, maybe even sooner, when you actually hit this Ask Me button, you will also have these agentic action item buttons. For instance, get me an appointment could be top of mind here. And what happens is you hit that button, and then the AI agent will go ahead and log into your patient portal, put in your password, identify the appointment, and go ahead and make the appointment for you. Now, that's a lot of complicated steps that have to be figured out, but AI is a co-pilot, which means it's sitting there, it's been a co-pilot sitting there helping you along. Now it's becoming an agent. It's taking action, call to action, steps that are challenging for us these days, and modifying them. So yeah, and I didn't, again, this is posed as a question, but you can imagine this should be like, facility, that's it, or location, and it would prompt you to do that. So yeah, those agents are also coming online for us. Excellent question. Any other questions?
Quick semantic question. What is the context window that you found is optimal right now with the technology in terms of video length?
So our system can digest very long videos. I mean, we can put even two-hour long videos in there. It just becomes expensive, right? Because the AI's got to go right now. AI's got to go through that. So I don't have a parameter to give you. I mean, I can ask our engineers exactly how large our context window is, but it's the largest one available on the market. But as far as processing, right, the video, it can do very lengthy videos, even 2-hour videos. The issue with a 2-hour video, by the way, is, I mean, unless you're deep stakeholder in the content, you don't watch 2-hour videos usually, right? You want to get to the point. So one great way of doing it is a short video with this RAG model referencing a lot of that 2-hour knowledge-based video, right? So for instance, welcome to my course. Today I'm going to talk about, hand anatomy. things to remember about this. You give few important words, but then you turn the AI to this large corpus of data that it can reference. So that's one really good way, I think, of using this technology. But to your point, yeah, you can put in as long as you want. It just winds up becoming expensive in the sense that the AI is going to have to process all that. The good news, by the way, I don't know if anyone's been following the news on the chip technology and also AI, is that what's happening is that it's actually becoming cheaper and cheaper since it's commoditized. What that means is that it's going to be free. And one of the signals for that is Meta's release of open source model. What that means is that anyone can now use any of these tools and it's free. Why did Meta do that? Well, one of the reasons I believe is that they're sitting there going, how can we compete with OpenAI? We can't build a moat, so we'll just scorch the earth and give it away for free. And that's the general sentiment right now, is that language models are going to be readily available, just like the internet was when it boomed back in the 90s, and anyone's going to have access to it. The question is, how do you integrate, how do you tune, how do you bring value using that tool? I can give you a wheel. It's a great general purpose technology, but it has no value unless you build a car with it, or a bicycle, or a unicycle, or a windmill. Same thing. AI, generative AI is that tool, but unless you use it in a meaningful way, it's not going to have value. Any other questions? So I wanted to show you, by the way, one of the ways that we're using this in multilingual. I don't speak Korean, so I sourced a question from this QVO in Korean. Google Translate wrote it for me in Korean. And I'm going to just paste it in here and see what happens. So what the AI is doing is actually reading that question in Korean, translating it, and looking for an answer. Remember, my database.
영아에서 발열과 콧물은 상기도 감염의 가장 흔한 증상입니다. 학령기 아동에서는 코막힘, 거스물, 기침이 가장 흔한 증상입니다. 재채기, 인후통, 두통, 피로감도 흔합니다.
The AI doesn't have that question sourced in Korean at all. As a matter of fact, you saw the question and answer set that's all in English, but it translated it. It also has my voice. I don't know if you noticed that. That's my clone voice. And Dr. Choi, what do you think about my Korean accent?
I was surprised, very impressed.
Yeah, right. I love my Korean accent too, and it just somehow I feel smarter just listening to myself. I don't know how to explain that, but it's really bizarre. I'm like, wow, I'm an incredible human being. Of course, I have to step away from the computer to check reality, but yeah.
And
So,
also, and why it is accurate.
it is
The
accurate.
translation is very accurate.
Yeah, yeah. So again, this is this is what the system is able to do, and I think this component of it in my voice is supported by 29 languages, and that's huge. And not my voice, it's supported by 50 languages. But that one component is a way of integrating AI to bring value, right? At the source, which is mom, sick kid, what do I do? Where's my doctor? Language is a barrier. You ask in your native language and you get the response that you want. And you don't have to do anything on the back end, as you can see. I mean, all these questions are all in English. I didn't have to do anything. The system automatically goes and does that. And that's really, again, that's the multilingual part that I think will bring us closer to our patients and hopefully bridge some gaps between us and our students as well. Any questions on that? Yeah.
Any tools for the disabled, say someone who can't hear or
Yeah, so we're actually working with RIT, which is a college in Buffalo, Armin, unfortunately, is not on the call. He knows them better than I do. He's visited several times. They want us, and that's a great bridge, by the way, to the next segment. They want us to also be able to add sign language, so sign animations onto our platform. We've looked at that. There are ways of trying to do that. It's very challenging to do it. But that is something that's been asked, and it speaks to our animation component. So I'm just gonna jump over to our studio tool here. But it does speak to this path that we also are doing on the animation character rendition part of the platform. So we don't have it yet, but it's been asked. We know that it's something we can do. It's just right now not primary responsibility within the organization. But yes, we know that's a need. Any other questions before I jump into Studio? So Haya IVO Studio, we've talked about IVOs a lot, but we haven't really showed you anything about that. This is really a content creation interactive tool where if you don't have a video, if you don't have content, let's say you have a PowerPoint slide, you can go ahead and create an animated interactive video called the IVO. This particular one that I made, you saw the video for it from Retract Ortho, but I made it off of this PowerPoint. So sorry for the bloody images. I think a lot of medical people here, but I basically just made this 12 slide PowerPoint and put in my narrative right at the base here, right? What I want the character to say. And I imported that into the studio. And when I imported it into the studio, the PowerPoint slides were all imported, just like you saw there. The comment section was also imported. This is what the character says. So, for instance, on the first slide, when I hit play, this is again a preview mode. Hit play.
Are you tired of struggling to get a clear view during surgeries?
He speaks. Now, he, she, and we're actually, Johns Hopkins now wants us to do characters for kids. We're going to actually have like not Sesame Street exactly, but things that resonate well with children as well as part of our character line. But you know, this adult kind of doctor looking scrub wearing character speaks the words that you want.
Do you find yourself frustrated with the constant removing and replacing of retractors, or having the assistant's hands in the way?
Now, you saw that there's some animation of the body, movement of the body. Some of that is actually done through the AI. The AI's read the transcript on the bottom, and then through our natural body language processing integration, it correlates some words that to some animations as well, which is great because then it becomes a little bit more lifelike. He can, for instance, point at you or give you a high five or point at the screen. And some of that is automated, but some of it is also manual. And let me show you what that looks like. So if we go from the speech, by the way, on the speech context, couple of things you can do here, and this is important because you may actually not have, the AI may not get all the words right. You know, if you say brachioradialis, it may say something else. The text-to-speech may not be correct. So you actually do a pronunciation tool here and select a word and then preview it and then pronounce it the way that you want and save it. All right. You can also add pauses to it as well. Let's say you wanted to pause on the word surgery. Oh, sorry. You can go ahead and pause before, after on a word as well. So that creates more of a natural way of conversing. Or at one point, you just want to pause and just say, I'm going to wait for you to, you know, do some action item. And it just goes ahead and waits for you. So you can control the pause, you can control the pronunciation, but more importantly, you can really control the visual component of this, right? So you can add a media to it. Now, I didn't have to do that because when I imported that PowerPoint slide, when I imported that, right? Sorry, the Google slide, it already sourced my media for me. But if I wanted to change the media, add another thing, simply say hit add media, and it goes to my library or my desktop and adds a file. That could be a video as well. So watch this video, it can do that. But the great part of this, you can also override and add animations. So when you add animations, you get a whole library of animations here, right? Which you can preview, right? So he looks at the wave, that's the board wave. And, you know, it goes ahead and does the animation that you want. And some of that could be creative. Some of it can be directing traffic. Some of it can be a little bit emotive. But really, the whole idea is to give animations at the point in time that you want to give, using what you feel is important for the viewer. Now, someone may say, well, that's a lot of work. Yeah, we understand that. But this is the environment to be able to create animated IVOs that you can rinse and repeat as much as you like. So I made this version. Tomorrow I want to change my words, change my animations. Simple enough. I just do it and it's done on the back end. We also have some of these. I don't know if it's in here. Let me see. Maybe at the bottom here. We also added just a, let's see if this is here. No, I don't see it just yet. But we added, oh, it is here. There you go, right? Big heart, right? Now, why are animations important? Well, they're core to our ability to communicate. It is so core that we don't even see it, right? I mean, you walk in a room and you look at someone's posture and you can tell, oh, stay away from them. Oh, they're really open to talking. One animation can change the whole mood of the audience, right? And it's a very innate way of communicating, but it's kind of not talked about too much, and it's ignored. So you can add those animations. And the reason these characters are not video-like, right? And have you seen some of these videos that give you, and I'll show you one in a second, that use not a rendered character, but a hyper-realistic virtual character? The reason is several-fold. One is that the legality and ethics of that haven't been fully worked out yet, right? So we don't even know where that belongs. I think moving forward, what's going to happen is that regulation is going to come down and say, you're using a video of that's not of a real human, you have to disclose that. So watermark it, announce it, do something, right? The other part of it is it's still creepy, unfortunately. And let me go back here and show you what I mean by creepy. So this is for an insurance company. It's
Hello, my name is John.
So it's a welcome, an onboarding QVO, how to bring in, how to get your patients to know about their benefits, essentially.
And I am calling from Molina Healthcare, your new Medicare healthcare plan. We would like to welcome you and answer any questions you have.
I don't know you guys, but this guy's scary, right? Because he's just like peering at me. And I know he's not real, but I know maybe he is. I don't know. He's creepy, right?
Creepy.
So yeah, he's creepy. But creepy. So yeah, so what we're hearing, by the way, is that, hey, it's not real, but he's not bad looking. I don't mind looking at him, right? But I know he's not real. And that's really critical. And this is the work that came out of USC's ICT on PTSD patients, where they had these autonomous characters creating more trust with the patients in the sense that they're able to disclose more information because they knew it wasn't real. I can tell somebody I killed a child and not have to go through shame and embarrassment that I would with any other human being. That study was very interesting because they actually had an autonomous character controlled by a human on the other end, and they told the patients, hey, any answers, there's a doc on the other end giving you answers to your questions. Even knowing that there's someone next door, a real human in the room, created this angst, this shame, this inability to want to disclose anything that's inside your brain, right? So this speaks to our students, by the way, right? Our students these days don't always want to ask, oh, what if I ask this question and everyone thinks I'm stupid, right? Which that's not a good question, right? We've all had this is a stupid question, but, right? I think those days may be going away because our students may not even want to be saying that to us because they're so smart. So that's why the animations, I think, can help, at least in healthcare, because now you are, talking to a virtual character that's not going to judge you. But I just wanted to show you this. This is, this studio tool here not only can do the presentation, but also, let me get back into this here. Also do this. You can create your own AI, right? Question and answer sets in here, similar to what we just showed you. You can do it on your quiz. And when you do a quiz, you can actually tailor it when they get the wrong answer. There's an outro that says, oh, I'm so sorry. The right answer is, and it can be another whole presentation is the right answer. So it re-emphasizes that. And it can also do surveys, right? So how did I do? What did you think of my class? On and on. So these are the structural components of it. And the way it works is you basically take these little tabs and you drag and drop them onto the timeline here, right? I don't have any quizzes on this one, but you can imagine you drag and drop them. And then you add AI modules to each individual component of it, and you publish it. And when you publish it, the output is going to be a link, just like any other web link that you can distribute. And it creates an interactive version of that animation with AI analytics in the background. So you actually get to see what questions were asked that were answered, questions asked that weren't answered, what they watched, on and on. And that's what this analytics page can show you. It shows you the session level data, individual level data, questions asked, answered, presentation, what was the most skipped component, most repeated, highest viewer dropout, quizzes, it scores the quiz. It also has notifications, so it's going to send the notification back to you, and also messaging through the system as well. So it's a very robust way of interacting, creating content. It is a bit of a heavy load for content creators. And that's why, I think if you're a content creator, you'll be able to utilize this. We are moving toward one push button for all of this, meaning here's my data, here's my output, like automating. And our goal within the platforms is to reduce the number of clicks that the content creator is clicking on, to reduce that. So I'm going to stop here and hopefully for the last 10 minutes field some questions.
Robert, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a comment and then a question. I think the animation is critical. I always tell my students that communication is 7% the words, 38% the tone in which you deliver those words, and 55% is nonverbal, and that's the animation part.
Mhm.
So I think the animation is critical. And it's critical because you said that these things can be scary. Well, here in Buffalo, the Duville College was going to have a avatar give the commencement speech, Sophie, who's apparently done speeches all over the place. But the students rejected the idea. And I think it's just because of partly is just unfamiliar, and also because you lack that sort of human feeling that you get from a live human being. So it's just interesting. And my question is actually to John. John, how do you see this as a student? I know you're very tech savvy and into AI, how do you think your fellow classmates would take to this?
I think having access to a platform like this where you have the real-time ability to ask questions and get tailored feedback based on your curriculum is the ultimate goal. Because you can certainly go to a textbook, you can go online, but that's not ultimately what's going to be tested and what's going to be expected of you in learning objectives of your curriculum. So from a very narrow student window, I think this is an answer to one of the long-term questions, and that how do we bring learning outside of the 8 to noon timeline? Because of course, there's too much content to expect everyone to have mastered it in one session. I think the broader question, something that we were talking about earlier, is of a 2 hour, 4 hours of lecture a day, how much of that is the really critical stuff, and how do we boil that down? And that's something that there's a ton of resources and energy going into. Typically, it's referred to as third-party materials, and that's sort of the learning arms race that you sometimes hear. How do we learn more efficiently? How do we learn faster? Because to your point, medical knowledge is doubling every 73 days. So any tool that helps improve the speed of that and the efficiency of that is welcome.
So 100% agree with you, and that's the path that we're actually going to. That's exactly what the solution that we're seeking now. The one comment about the animation: what if we said Kermit the Frog is going to give the commencement speech? They may feel differently, right? They may, right? They may feel differently than kind of a rendered. The point, by the way, for commencement speeches, I think that's like a very important point in time for students, right? You always remember that day. But for what we're hearing through our stakeholders on the healthcare patient education side, they do want a character that resonates with them. So they want an African American female talking to them about breast cancer, right? Outside of healthcare, outside of those very nuanced interactions, they may not hold as much value unless the character is someone that resonates well within the audience. So I showed you some of those characters. Those are stock. We can make, Dr. Firestein's animated character as well. And it looks very good. I mean, it looks very close to you, and it can have your voice and tonality and all that. So we can do that on the individual basis as well. As a matter of fact, one of our customers who's in the medical sales business, she has a distributorship. She wants to tell all her doctors about her product, that she wants her character to be the one telling them. So I think it does depend on the audience, that a DYU character may or may not resonate as well for that particular use case. But the point is, you can edit and create to your heart's content when it comes to formulating your presentations. The key component, again, is the interactivity. By the way, this is going to act as the first step to create characters that kids can potentially talk to and learn about their chronic health condition. So we are on a path to, and this is, by the way, what AI does. This looks like me the first day in the operating room as a med student. I think, just like, what am I doing here? But the point is, yes, it's all possible. It's just, which direction do you want to take in?
Well, and then the thing I like about this,
I would,
go ahead, Robert. Yeah.
Yeah, I would predict that if I was a Duville student and Sophie gave the commencement speech, 15, 20, 25 years later, I would remember that very, very, very well.
Yeah.
As opposed to someone else. I can't even remember who spoke at mine.
Right.
But this would be etched in my memory.
If it was a good speech. If it was a good
speech.
Well, actually 25 years ago yesterday was SpongeBob's first appearance on TV. So I just want to put in a little plug for SpongeBob.
Yeah. So can I make a comment? So we know that voice carries more empathy than vision, right? I mean, you can have a phone conversation with someone that's very intimate and moving, and you're not seeing their face, right? Now, go back when the telephone was invented, everyone said, oh, it's going to break down communication. It's got to. Well, no, it just has to be used in the right way, right? So that's why voice cloning is more important for us, being able to, and we hear this. You guys have all heard this as educators. I heard your voice in my head, Dr. Gatewood, as I was looking at this patient, and you said, right? And John will tell, he said, he already in his head, right? So that voice is really critical. And that's why we focused on that in the multilingual as our first iteration to make that connection. The character bit is going to come along, and the videos, I mean, they can be made very easily as well. One recommendation I have is next time you give your PowerPoint lecture, before you give it, there is a record button on PowerPoint. It says record, and it actually turns on the camera, puts you wherever you want on the screen. John probably knows about this, and you can record and you're done. So maybe John can record one of your lectures, right? Or do it, or one of his professor's lectures, and then add this to the platform to make it interactive. But yeah.
Actually, there was a study where they had patients call in, not knowing they were either going to be answered by basically AI and the other by physicians, and they actually the patients felt that the AI response was more empathetic and
Yes.
more accurate.
Yes.
So
Yes.
to your point.
So yeah, I mean, there's been more than one publication talking about empathy. Now, one of the reasons that the AI is more empathic is that it's got time, right? I mean, you know, as a clinician, you're running around and mom's asking you or whatever about, wife's asking you about husband's heart attack, and you're trying to save a life. You're like, look, not right now, right? So that's the issue, is we don't have that time scaling and we're not able to do it. It's not in our accord to be mean, it's on our accord to be kind, but then the environment controls our output.
Good point.
I love that the AI's got time. It certainly does, has all the time in the world. Yeah. One of the other things I really like about this too is, and we've talked about this, is, and David particularly in creative problem solving, I mean, you can get the basic principles and stuff down, and then folks watch this and stuff, and then when the students come in, it's much more of a rich learning experience because it's question, it's answer, it's facilitated, rather than, as you talked about, repeating the same old thing again and again and again and again. And I found that really useful in the videos that I've done, because I don't have to do it again. It's like, watch that, do it, watch that, do it. So love this. Yeah.
So by the way, you asked about ranking of the questions. One of the thoughts, and maybe you guys can help me with this, is to create an incentive pathway within that to encourage even more questions and creativity, right? So here's the idea. Ask me the question that gets you a golden star, right? Like, you always have that one student that's like, wow, that's a brilliant question. You can embed that within, we're thinking about embedding a tool in there where you ask that question and the professor gives you whatever immediately. This is kind of combining thumbs up, thumbs down, but flipping it. The viewer is no longer giving you a rating, but the content owner is giving you a rating on how good of a question you ask. And that could be sprinkled in there. So let's say, and I know Dr. Choi's already like spinning in his head. He's like, what's this guy talking about? I'm a PhD. He doesn't know it. But the idea is to really like create that little bit of mystery, the little bit of pull. So you're kind of like, oh, let me see if I can stump the professor or ask that golden question and get rewarded for it.
Love it.
So Dr. Choi, what do you think?
Very interesting idea.
Yeah. I don't know, but I mean, we all know that a lot of these social media algorithms work on that basic psychological premises to give you the reward, right? The video that makes you all happy, but it's not on a consistent basis. They don't feed it to you every 5th video. They actually randomize that reward, and we know randomized reward functions can create a habit. We know that, and that's how they get you.
Along the line,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Along the line, if I ask one quick question, are there any way that you can track down individual student, their kind of sequence of question that they asked?
So in the yes, so in the QVO individualized session use data is coming on board. Right now we don't have it. Collaboration is coming on board, which means you can do it. Sequencing of questions is going to happen for us in a way where AI is going to do that for you automatically. So I ask about H2O, and then all the questions about hydrogen and oxygen bonds come up as well. So yes, that's possible. It's just not implemented yet. We are focusing on the highest feature value that will bring the most utility to this platform, and then going down and knocking them out one by one. But that's been talked about, and it's in our feature set as well, but not available currently.
The reason why I'm asking is that the question really represent the individual student level of knowledge and their
Yes.
way of understanding.
Yes.
So track down those paths, it provide a very important information for us
Yes.
to predict or support in a more tailored way.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Robert,
So,
go ahead.
yeah,
Then we'll start to wrap. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
what can
One thought I had was, can you do embed this sort of into a gaming, program, much like Archana's escape rooms, so that when the students look at it, somehow integrate it so it's a kind of a game.
Yeah, so a couple of comments. So Dr. Choi, about your question about level of students expertise driving the conversation. Yes, that's one thing we can do. We're not doing it, but it's on our path. The other is doing a little, and we've talked about this. I don't know how possible it is because the AI is still not good. But you saw maybe on that insight section, we had sentiment and insight analysis, right? And doing an analysis of the student's state of mind, like, if the tonality of the voice is down, well, maybe not the best time to be educating you. And maybe that's a research tool right now. Maybe we're actually doing some of that work with Alzheimer's patients, looking at the pace and tonality of their speech to correlate that with medication use and anxiety. So that's a research study we're doing at George Washington University. So some of that tooling's there, but really, if I'm in a bad mood or if I'm tired, we know that you're not going to learn. So maybe it's not the good time to do that. So emotive component of that may be something that we can dig into. But again, it's not high on our list. I think what you said is going to probably it's going to trump that that feature right now about your level of education. Sorry, Dr. Gatewood, didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Okay. So Robert, did you want a question from Robert? Last one, or no?
I'm good. I'm good.
You're good. Okay. All right. So just a little housekeeping. First off, Aldad, thank you once again for getting up so early in the morning, and for being with us. And I have a note here that our next meeting would be May 30th. So I just I want to kind of talk to the crowd here and talk to you. This is the third time we've had you back, and we love you. So do we want to continue it and see if Aldad will be with us for another one? Do we want to take May 30th and kind of look at the future direction? Because as I'm looking at this, just about everybody on here has presented. Ken, you presented. John, you presented. Robert, you presented. I presented. Archana, I think we might want to have you do a presentation about the work that you're doing, because I think that's really, really crucial. And Aldad, I don't want to impose on you as far as your time and energy. I want to make it useful for you. So, and I want to make sure that you're getting something out of this as well. So kind of just kind of put the word out there. What are our thoughts about May 30th, our next meeting? I just kind of want to hear from you.
I'd love to hear Dr. Mishra's work, by the way. I'm not familiar with any of that, but I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of coming to the party at, I don't know what stage, so.
No, you're like in, man. I mean, you're in. I mean, you presented it. You're totally in, right? Right, Robert?
I don't want to. And I'd be more than happy to do to present more as well. But again, it's all about learning and growth for me. So then,
right.
as long as, yeah.
So, Dr. Mishra,
I just want to say, I mean, this has been fascinating, and I would rather listen to you than than present. And I just want to say I feel bad because the last time I had the free pass for 14 days, it ended up being the time that I was in service. Plus, after that, I had the student graduation and grades. So I didn't get a chance to really play on the platform and would love to, so
Yeah.
that when you come back next, would have more questions. And I'm going to throw it to John. I know, John, you're busy, but for the third years, I'd love to do the chest X-ray session on this platform. And if you want to partner with me and help me in the process, because you're going to be one of the students who will be there. So getting your perspective would be just awesome. And this wouldn't be until July. So we have some time to build it. Alidad, could I get a chance to play on the platform?
Of course, yeah. No, of course, yeah. No, I know Armin's actually in New York City talking to he's giving a presentation at the New York Public School Symposium, so that's why he's not on. But I'll make a note so he can go ahead and go ahead and extend that to you. No
Thank
problem
you.
at all.
I
Yeah.
actually, Armin attended one of my sessions
Yeah,
recently on scientific communication. So
yeah.
that was, it was nice to connect with him there.
Well,
But
I'll make
thank you again.
Yeah,
This is
no,
just, my mind's blown away, and I
we're just starting.
can't wait
love
to
it.
use it.
So
Well,
if I might just try this, how about on May 30th, Aldad, if we have you come back, and then on June 20th would be our next one. Archana, could you and John present on June 20th with the chest X? Yeah. Yeah, John, that work for you? It's time
I
out.
have 7. I think that I'm actually out of town with the 20th. No, actually, no, I'm not. I am here. I will be back by then. So yeah.
All right. So then what we'll do is on the 30th, then we'll have you back on June 20th. We'll have Archana and John. And on the chest exam. Well, this is great. And just kind of in thinking about this, and I know Robert, Dr. Sheehan isn't here with us this morning, but as the four of us sat around this table at my house one day, and I think it was you or it was Dan, and said, "So where are we going with this?" And my response was, "Well, you get 4 or 5 people together with some good intent. We don't know where it's going." So, but this is exactly Buffalo Society for Creativity and Medical Education. For heaven's sakes, this is right on what our charter is, our esteemed charter, So that's written on a napkin someplace. So this is right down the alley. Yeah, Robert, go ahead.
Yes, while we're all here, I was wondering if I could ask Archana and John if they would mind if I sort of looked over their shoulder as a third person observer, because
Absolutely.
this is, computers. I didn't grow up with computers, and this looks pretty complicated to me. So I would be interested in just learning how you put all that together.
Great.
Absolutely, would love you and to join and your input. I just did a history of medicine session yesterday, and now I'm thinking, wouldn't it be so cool if we could have had the presentation on this platform rather than, well, there were some advantages to that because I had artifacts brought in from the museum for the residents to play with, but a combination would have been great.
Well, and that's the beauty of it. I think too, I see this in combination. I see this as a yes and, not just a standalone. And I'm sure you're going to agree with that as well. It's a yes and. Let's get the information out that we repeat again and again and again and again and again and again. That it's relatively static, and then we add the rest of the stuff in, doing the stuff that we love to do, which is the facilitative conversations, the inquiry. So, Archana, what should we call your session on the 20th?
Can I get back to you on that after
Sure
John,
can.
I, and Robert have met? I also wanted to remind you, I did present on this platform. It must have been a not memorable presentation for you to have forgotten.
No, you did. I'm sorry. You did. I'm just hitting you up again.
Yeah.
This happened to me the other day. I had folks come to do this music event that I went to, and I said, I wanted to thank you and you and there were two people there that said, hey, we were here too. So forgive me. So like just about everybody here is presented. Dr. Cho, you get to present next. So Michael, you're up soon. So Ken, you have already. So excellent. Okay. So then May 30th, then we'll have you come back. And June 20th, we'll get something from Archana and John. And I think we're good. So once again, thank you all for everything. I'm doing a webinar on June the 5th. I'll let you know about June the 5th on solving the real problem. You've probably got some information on that if you're on the email list. Just sign up for that. And thank you for that. And so, and once again, Dr. Yates, thank you for all of your great work that you do to make this happen. And so, anything else for the good of the order this morning? Go out.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Get creative, save lives. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a
Have a
blessed
good
day.
morning.
Talk soon.
Take care. Bye, everybody.